Well, hello everyone and welcome to today's special Public Relations Institute of Australia Golden Target Awards webinar. And thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. My name is Anne Howard and I'm the CEO of the Public Relations Institute of Australia. I feel you're going to really enjoy today's webinar, especially if you're planning to submit an entry into the 2017 Golden Target Awards. The Golden Target Awards are Australia's most prestigious awards for public relations and communication practitioners. They're also the longest running awards. This year, 2017, the awards are in their 41st year, and that's exciting for several reasons. Firstly, the awards are now open to every single person working in PR and communication across Australia. They are truly national, with the gala celebration to be held on 9 November at the Sydney Opera House. Secondly, this year's awards now have 29 different categories to enter your consultancy, your in-house team, and favourite campaigns. And you can enter into as many categories as you like. There's no limit. Some of the categories include thought leadership, government-sponsored campaign, community relations or engagement campaign, there's internal or change management, and advocacy and public affairs. There's also a pro bono category, a separate one for small budget campaign, and a digital and social campaign category, as well as a separate health campaign category. The list really does go on. There are 3 awards for in-house PR team of the year. They are one for government in-house team, one for corporate in-house team, and one for the not-for-profit sector. In other words, with 29 categories, there are now more chances than ever to win yourself a highly coveted Golden Target Award. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them directly into the chat box. Once the presentation is complete, we'll allow some time at the end to address the questions we've received. We're also recording today's webinar, so it'll be available on the PRIA website for anyone who's not able to join us today. And here to talk through with you how you can win yourself and your team a Golden Target Award is the Chief Judge, Sylvia Bell. Also my colleague, Jonathan Parker, Major Events and Project Manager for the PRIA, and the man who really does make the Golden Target Awards happen, will be on hand to answer questions. So now let me introduce Sylvia Bell. Sylvia is a Fellow of the PRIA and has been actively involved with the organisation for close to 20 years. She has judged the Golden Target Awards for many years and brings a wealth of experience and insight to the Golden Target Awards. Sylvia is committed to making sure the awards are contemporary and relevant to the industry and continue to evolve to recognise best practice in the industry. So I'd like you to join me and welcome both Sylvia and Jonathan. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome everyone. I hope there's some people online that I do know, and I noticed there are some CSIRO people registered, so it would be great to make that contact again. Well, as Anne said, it's 40 years last year with the Golden Target Awards, so in the 41st year it seemed timely to have a really serious look at the awards and see what we can do in the digital age. Things are changing much more quickly than I think any of us can predict. So after 40 years, we took the decision to do a comprehensive review of the awards and to ensure they remain valuable and relevant to the industry today. In doing that, we consulted over 20 industry people, and these are our colleagues and people we know in all sorts of sectors across PR, communications, banks, corporations, agencies, government departments, not-for-profits and educational institutions. So we reached out to a very broad audience. Among the changes that were made, one of the most significant this year for the first time is that they've been opened up to the non-PRIA members, and Anne has covered that. So we've revised the categories, we've overhauled the criteria, we've increased the word limit, and I'll come to this in a bit more detail later, and opening to non-members. The newer revised categories, and I know Anne touched on these, but I'll go into a bit more detail. We've put in advocacy and public affairs campaign. So some of these have been revised and added to. So advocacy and public affairs, we have a corporate communications campaign, thought leadership campaign. This came out of our discussions with our team that we consulted with, and we realised that while there's a lot of thought leadership goes on, we actually didn't have it registered. We used to have a financial campaign, and again, with low numbers with that, we rolled that up into a corporate communications campaign. So that now covers a suite of practices. We have corporate government not-for-profit for in-house team of the year. And again, we split these out because they're quite separate. There's a small budget and pro bono campaign. These were combined previously, but again, when we looked at these in more detail, we thought they're very different. Doing a small budget campaign might be up to $25,000. Doing a pro bono one, of course, is done for no fee at all. So there could be, you might do a very large campaign pro bono, which can still be submitted. Crisis management and issues management we've split out, again because they're quite different. Most of us deal with issues management, and that's often our bread and butter work. Crisis campaigns, not many of us deal with those, hopefully, but again, we've put a separate campaign in for that. And Student Campaign of the Year, a brand new category, and we're excited to have it in the mix for 2017. You will have all received, I believe, the printed handbook entry kit for the awards, and there is a lot of very detailed information in this. It has all the explanations of the categories, the marking criteria, and how to go about putting in a very good submission. It's also available online. So talking about the criteria, we've overhauled the criteria. We've tried to make this simpler with a series of markings on 1 to 7 scale. So you have to actually say if something's brilliant, you might give it a 6 to a 7. If something's not so brilliant, you've got the opportunity to mark it a 2 or a 3 if you feel that way. I'll move on now to the judging panel. This year's judging panel includes a variety of leading international and senior industry figures from all sectors within the PR and comms industry. We also increased the requirements for our judges this year. In fact, we doubled the number of years experience required. And that was directly in relation to some of the feedback we received from last year. We're confident that our panel of judges this year is strong and a diverse mix from our various industries. We have an awards portal, again similar to last year but improved, and this is where you manage all your entries online. They have to be plain text so that they can be uploaded, and we ask that you confirm your commitment to the Code of Ethics and also confirm your commitment to the Code of Practice. The awards pricing is, I'll just check. That information is all in your handbook again, and I won't go over that other than to say that there is different pricings for PRA members compared to PRA non-members, and there is also an increment for late entries. The timelines. The standard entries close next week on the 18th of July at 11:59. Late entries close on the 9th of August, and obviously we want as many people to get their entries in on time as possible. Judging will take place throughout Australia, throughout August and September, and the finalists will be announced in September. The state ceremonies, each state will conduct its own ceremony, and that will be throughout September and October. And as Anne mentioned earlier, the national awards will be presented at the Opera House on the 9th of November. The awards criteria, you have to present a brief, and I'll go through this in some detail because this is, having judged many of these awards for some years, this is where the rubber hits the road. You really do need to describe your project well and what it is you're wanting to achieve, how you did your research, and make sure you use SMART objectives, and these are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Who are your target publics or key stakeholders, your communication strategy, the execution, your budget, and that is kept confidential, of course, the results and impact. And this is critical because we need to see how the results tie back to your original brief. Measurement and evaluation, and then the general comment is the compliance with the code of conduct. I'll just check, have we got any questions yet, Jonathan?
Yeah, we've had a couple of questions come through, Sylvia. The first one is from Yuan, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. It asks, if we enter into one category but it becomes evident to the judges that we should have entered a different category, can they move our entry to that category?
The answer to that, I'll say yes. The judges will let the applicant know, and will submit it into the different category. So the answer to that is yes. That should be fine.
So I'd add to that if it appears that it's a mistake, so for example, you title your submission experiential and you've entered into the business-to-business category, we'll definitely take that up. But ultimately, the decision about what category is best for you is up to you. So if it appears that there's been an error made and that's picked up, of course we'll flag that. But ultimately, there might be multiple categories that you're eligible for, and so that decision is up to you to decide which one you think fits best. And I've got another question from Yuan as well, which is, my advocacy campaign cost $8,000 for the year. Should it go into the advocacy and public affairs category or the small budget campaign category?
Okay, Yuan, what I would recommend with that is, again, back to the brief and back to your objectives. If it is a strong advocacy campaign, it can go there. And also, if it is $8,000, as you say, you can enter it in both categories. So you're not limited to entering one category. Yes, so thank you.
And a question from Lyndall, which is, for team entries, does every member of our team need to be a member of the PRAA?
No, Lyndall, thanks for your question. Provided the person submitting the entry is a member, that is all that's required.
And of course, entries are open to non-members this year as well. That just attracts a slightly higher fee for non-members. Excellent. That's all the questions we've had for the moment, but feel free to keep typing your questions in as we go along, everyone.
Okay. So on the Facebook page, on the PRAA Facebook page, there's a rather nice graphic about top tips, and this is what I'd really like to talk to you about. The first one is address the criteria, and I can't stress this enough. There are a number of criteria for each of the categories. It is essential that you make an effort to describe how your campaign fits those criteria. Make sure that you talk about you describe the brief. Make sure you work out the objectives. Make sure that you talk about what you did address the objectives. I have seen in the past a number of submissions that might have had a fantastic brief, but the objectives really didn't marry up to what the project was about. Do a sense test at the end of it. Go through your submission. Get someone else in your office to read it. And again, just from a judging perspective, what we're looking for is that clear intent, the clear objectives, the clear strategy, how you went about what you were doing and what your results were. The word count now is at 1,500 words. We discuss amongst the review team. We discussed this at length, and there was the conversation that 1,000 words was too limiting. So we landed on 1,500 words, and you do have a 10% wiggle room with that, so keep that in mind. Any additional information can be put in appendices and tables, and the budget, of course, is put in as a separate, a confidential area. Your client approval. If you're working for a client, you must have your client approval form with your submission. If we don't get that with your submission, we really can't go ahead and mark it because it could be confidential. The client may not want to share that information. So it is essential to get your submission marked, that you have that. And I think they're the main must-haves with the...
We've just had, I think you've just answered it, but we've had a question come through, so I'll repeat it just so we're clear. Does the 1,500 word limit apply to each criteria or the entire entry? For example, does it include the words in the budget, in the attachments, etc.?
Okay, what a good question. The 1,500 words applies to the entry, and it's best if you consider your budget as an attachment and any other documents like that as attachments. So talking in your narrative around your brief, your objectives, your outcomes, and what you did, that has to be 1,500 words, but that limit does not apply to any attachments or appendices.
Correct. And Lindsay's asked, when you say plain text, are you asking that submissions are not designed this year?
Yes. It simply because of the submission process, the submission protocol and process, it makes it very difficult to do comparisons across if everyone's in different formats. So it is essential that it comes in the plain text. If you wish to attach something as an attachment in a format, though, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yes, so we're providing people with the opportunity to provide a designed version of the submission, which will be used, you know, in the event that your entry is successful. That's what will feature on our website. However, the content that's actually being judged will be the plain text content.
It's really good getting the questions in.
Now, I'm just wondering, Sylvia, I know we went over the criteria for the campaign categories. Should we maybe have a look at the criteria for some of the other categories? So, for example, the Future Leaders Award criteria, perhaps?
So with the Future Leaders Award, you have to have an employer statement, and it's about exceptional work and the execution of a PR campaign. So this is about an individual who really is shining in their role. And again, you need to somehow quantify and document what they've done, and about, you know, delivering proven results. Can I ask, is there, as I say, you will have all received the entry kit and online. Are there any? There's a lot of information in that, and I'm reluctant to go through each page simply because it won't. Each page is not relevant to everyone. Could you ping through any questions you might have around any of those categories, please?
Just while we're waiting for those questions to come through, Sylvia, I know that you are a fellow of the PRIA, and the fellows are sort of like the holders of our Code of Ethics. I'm wondering if you can talk a bit about the link between the awards and the Code of Ethics and why that's important.
The Code of Ethics is critical for the PRIA, and so we extend that to anyone submitting an entry has to state that they subscribe to the Code of Ethics. There are many issues in working in public relations around confidentiality, correct practice, and we occasionally see, not to do with the PRA, but we occasionally see just in the news media examples of poor practice, and we really want to make sure that anyone associated with the PRAA really does adhere to proper practice and in treating their staff and their clients with the industry expectations that we want. And just that level of professionalism. We don't want to be involved with any poor practice. Okay, more questions?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions coming through. The first one is there doesn't appear to be a box to fill out for the criteria in general in the campaign awards. Is this for the judges to determine, or how do you answer the question? And you're correct, it is in fact for the judges to determine, and that's what gives the judges the opportunity to mark you down if there appears to be anything in your submission which would be, contravene the code of ethics or our code of conduct. So that is what that criteria is for. You're quite right. You do not need to write anything for the general criteria. And the next question is, in terms of the government in-house category, did I hear you say that this is a new category this year? If it is not new, can you give me an idea about the popularity of this category? For example, do you receive a large number of entries for this one? So in terms of what's different about the in-house team awards categories this year is that it used to be one category to cover all in-house teams, and now we've split it into three, being corporate in-house team, government in-house team, and not-for-profit in-house team. So I suppose in terms of popularity, we're certainly hoping they'll be popular, but it's to be determined at this stage as we're still receiving submissions.
And they were split out because they were quite different. Doing a government in-house team of the year is a very different group than doing a corporate in-house, and doing a not-for-profit again they're very difficult to compare, because you might have a corporate doing an in-house team of the year compared to a not-for-profit, and you're just not comparing apples with apples. So it became apparent that we really want in-house teams to submit for this, but we had to find a way that we could judge them with their peers and make sure that it's not an uneven playing field for them.
Got another question on the in-house team categories, actually, from Julia. She said it seems pretty clear to show intent, objectives, and outcomes for a campaign. But do you have any tips of what to emphasise when submitting for the Team of the Year award? And Julia has mentioned that she would fall under the not-for-profit in-house team category. So in terms of what sort of things to pick up when you're submitting in the in-house team categories, any thoughts on that?
It's basically about how you go about what you're doing and what you've achieved. So again, you need to be able to articulate your business story. What are your key differentiators, and how demonstrate how your team created a business environment that delivered results. Again, your SMART objectives. What are your goals and objectives of the team? To what extent are the objectives SMART? And what role do they play within the overall business? Who are your target audiences and stakeholders, of course? And what's your strategy? You need to outline your organisation's goals and the role of the communications team in achieving them. What tools and tactics have you used? That's fairly self-explanatory. But again, then your results and impact. Has the organisation or your team achieved its public relations goals? So on page 19 of the entry kit, there is quite a lot of information on that criteria, and if you address those, you're on the right track to providing good information that will show how well you're doing.
Do you guys want to talk about some about our judging panel for this year?
Yes, well, I would actually like to speak about our judging panel. Sylvia mentioned that we've undertaken this massive review, and all of our judges this year, we've literally doubled the criteria that they need to meet to become to be invited to be judges. So they are our most experienced and some of our most experienced practitioners and professionals in the entire country. They are all PRA members, and we also have members from overseas. They also come from just about every area, so from corporate and government, not-for-profit, universities, they come from right across. So you're in really good hands. These judges really do understand where you're coming from. And I guess from my point of view, I'd just reiterate what some of the things that Sylvia was saying. Really look at the campaigns that you've done this year, the campaigns that you're most proud of, and they may well fit into more than one category. And my advice there is go for it, because I've heard that you can quite often take out more than one category with your campaign if it's a really good campaign. So, and the trick there is to really look at the criteria for the various individual campaign category that you're going to put it in, even if it's the same campaign you're lodging, and answer the questions for that campaign. Tell the story of that campaign and really make it sing.
Now we've had an excellent question that's come through from Lindsay, and something that we actually haven't touched on yet. And she's asked, can you explain the thinking behind not announcing winners in some categories, particularly last year, of course?
Lindsay, that is a really good question. It was certainly something that with the review panel we went into in great depth, and it very much underpins a lot of what we've done this year. You would appreciate that if there is a category and there might have been one or two submissions, and in an unfortunate case they may not have been winning quality. And I hope this is a general question for you. It makes it very difficult for judges to award winners if, for instance, there isn't that quality. That was the basis for a lot of the work we've done in reviewing the categories and in reviewing the criteria, because we really want people to win. So in being more specific about the criteria, we're trying to give applicants the opportunity to really answer those questions that will bring out the best in their campaigns. There could be, for instance, there could be a good campaign, but if it was very poorly entered, you could see what the outcome could be. So that was a lot of the thinking behind. We certainly want winners. We would love to have fantastic winners in every category. That's the intent, and that's why, I'll reiterate, why we've put so much effort into reviewing the whole process to make it clearer and easier for people to put in really high quality entries. I hope that answers your question.
We've had another question come through, which is, if you enter your campaign into more than one category, do you have to pay an entry fee for each additional category?
Yes, the answer is yes to that. So if someone enters in 3 categories, they do need to pay the entry fee for each of those categories.
Excellent. So again, please feel free to ask away if you have any more questions. Otherwise, we might be coming to the end of the webinar shortly. I wonder if you had any sort of final thoughts or tips or general advice, Sylvia, for our wonderful entrants this year.
Okay, my tips are, again, just make sure you really explain your campaign well. Talk about your objectives, your SMART objectives, what it was you were wanting to achieve, how you went about it, and then what you achieved. Put yourself in the judge's shoes and think, if I was marking this, what would I be looking for? Don't leave it to the last minute. And again, I've seen many entries that have come in that have been great campaigns, but they have been left the preparation and the application has been left till they have been left. The preparation and the application has been left till right on the deadline, and the applicant hasn't done themselves the service that they should. So make sure that you start early. It gives you time to really pull together all that information that you have used, that you've got a few days to put it together. It's not something I don't think you can put together you know, on a Tuesday afternoon when it's due that night. So give yourself time and really go through the criteria. And if you've got queries, get in touch with the PRAA. That's what we're here for. So Jonathan and Anne are totally across the process this year, and ask for help and advice if you need it. But we would love to see really high quality, well thought through submissions for every category. That's our goal if we're talking about goals, and we would love to see that this year.
And we've got a question from Elise, who works in a consultancy. I know we have a number of people who work in consultancies on the line today. She's asked if you can possibly talk a little bit more about the consultancy awards and what the judges might be looking for from submissions in that category.
This again, it's around how you operate and what you do. It's around your business story. What is your story? Do you articulate your business story? You might be a fantastic consultancy, but you might not say it anywhere. It might not appear anywhere. So it's how do you make sure that you articulate that? And what are the challenges that you deal with? And what are your key differentiators? Again, we're looking for SMART objectives as well. What are the goals and the objectives of the consultancy, and to what extent are they really well articulated? Your target clients, it's really useful to know what market you're working in and what's your strategy to achieve your business goals. So these are very much more how effective is your business in your marketplace. And again, it's on page 18 in the entry kit, and go through those 9 criteria and answer those in good, clear language. And that should, you're wanting to present a really good picture of your agency.
Excellent. And we've got a question here from Amy, who's asked if it's possible to talk a little bit more about category 5, which is internal or change management communications campaign. One thing I might add here is if there's particular categories that you're interested in, if you're a member of the Public Relations Institute, you're able to log into our website and access all of our previous winners case studies. So you might be able to glean some information there from the winners of last year's Internal Change Management Communications Campaign Award, and that's true of all categories, and that dates back a number of years too. So you can really see sort of the history of the award-winning campaigns there.
Okay, Amy, I think Jonathan has answered your question.
Excellent. So I think we might be coming to the end now.
I think we might too, Jonathan. And look, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to Sylvia for spending the time with us today and sharing your expertise. It's really been hugely insightful. And thank you to you, all of our participants. We hope you've really enjoyed today's webinar. And I really urge you to think about the work you've done. You're doing great work out there, and it'd be wonderful to have it recognised and for you to be able to celebrate the success that you bring to your organisation. The Golden Target Awards do celebrate the best of the best in the whole of Australia, and it's a way to demonstrate just how diverse and expert our practitioners in public relations and communication are in this country. So as Sylvia said, if you are able to, which is quite easy, just log on to the PRIA website, pria.com.au, or don't hesitate to call our office. The number's there on the website as well. we're very, very happy to take any questions at all. They're not stupid questions at all, so whatever you're thinking. The PIA, I will say, hosts regular free monthly webinars for our members, and on a range of different professional subjects. I encourage you to continue to take advantage of these regular webinars as a resource for your ongoing professional development. And thank you again for joining us.